Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 24th of April, comes to you from Salt Lake City in Utah. I flew in here late last night. I've got a morning meeting, 7 hours behind London. It is, in fact, I arrived in this early hours of the morning, and it is now just coming up to 2 o'clock in London. And as I say, I'm 7 hours behind. So we see here on the NASDAQ, we've got 27,000 is the area where we're just hitting some resistance. But it's amazing, really, that the markets are proving so resilient. We've got it's S&P holding its highs above the cloud, and the future today on the NASDAQ is running higher. We actually really quite incredible. It's up over 1%. So we are seeing some really big moves that is driving that. And if we look at the stocks in Europe, there was a warning from the Bank of England yesterday that stocks are over valued. So we're seeing the FTSE future down this morning. Fears here really of a lower high, potentially then a lower low. We're teetering on the cloud, so not looking as strong as it was. And the DAX in Germany fairly flat as well. Japan was slightly up. We saw China down, Shanghai was down, and the Sensex in India was punished down 1.3%. That recovery starting to look like it's going to fail. And the Aussie market was just slightly lower. Again, concerns here, a lower high, a lower low scenario. And if we look at the short-term chart, you can see we're back below the cloud there on the 60-minute chart. Brent crude, of course, the Middle East story rages on. Brent crude is sitting above $105, and so the reality is that is remaining elevated with the situation in the Middle East, which is starting to filter through into economies globally, and that's the concern. And if we look at things like inflation, the inflationary risk in the UK for sure is higher. We're just nudging 5% again there with upside targets, and on the daily chart, we've got a target of 5.5%, and again, we did just touch 5% today, so really quite significant there. Looking at some of the other soft commodities, they're rising as well. Coffee up 1%, cocoa up 1%, coffee up slightly, holding that support level, and sugar, which has been very bearish of late, seems to be finding support at around 13.50. Looking at gold, that is, you can see there on the daily chart, the weak trend. On the 60-minute chart, we are below the cloud with a downside target, and it's worse for silver. We've got downside targets there, and we are below the cloud. Looking at the tech majors in the US, we've got Apple. They're looking a little bit better than they were. Amazon, just the nearest, it actually made a smidgen of a new high, but had failed to hold on to it, is the only Make 7 stock nudging new highs and looking really like a doji now yesterday. So that does look like that might be the top of the range and we'll fall away. Looking at the 60-minute chart, not really clear yet. Watch here for 1 minute for 60-minute targets. And so then if we look at the Dow, we had some really big moves in the Dow yesterday. Probably the big one was we've seen Caterpillar just again making new highs with lots of upside targets. So that is looking very strong above the cloud. And then if we look at the other end of the spectrum, IBM, they were down 8%, and that's really falling away. And Salesforce down over 8%, nearly 9%. Heading to its downside target, still below the cloud. If we look at the NASDAQ, we had very strong performance from Texas Instruments. Upside targets were given in January. They've been met. Really big move there. Microchip Holdings, again, another big upside target there as well. So it is really quite key. NXP Semiconductor not looking as good with that downside target, but is fighting back above the cloud. And of course, ARM had a massive day yesterday, and we're seeing here another big day, so really quite strong. Looking on the other end of the spectrum, we've got Workday down 9%. Really stocks, Adobe, all these stocks in vicious downtrends, really quite key there. Microsoft down a further 4%. Intuit, we're seeing a lot of these stocks that are really in bear trends. So it's a really very mixed picture. So it's definitely not tech stocks that are holding the market higher, even though we're seeing that strong performance of the Nasdaq on the future today. Looking at the UK market, it's quite interesting here. If we look at the strength, British American Tobacco, upside targets, but a new downside targets in crossing the cloud. We talked about supermarkets yesterday, Tesco recovering and now starting to look better on that upside target. And if we go to the other end of the spectrum, we've got some pretty big fallers here as well. EasyJet, their woes continue with the price of jet fuel. We've seen the likes of Lufthansa cancelling flights. BAE Systems you'd expect to be strong with everything that's going on in the Middle East, but again, risk of a lower high, lower low, and that downside target is activated. So not looking as strong as it was. And stocks like GSK, got a good upside target there and above the cloud on the medium-term chart, but again, watch for this risk, a lower high, lower low, and the shorter term targets show you what's going on there. So that's it for today. Have a great weekend. I'm driving to Seattle, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Bye for now.